You are listening to the Objects of Affection collection. Study 13. The Paris Fashion Week Paradox. Why the 18 collection calendar kills creativity and signals the death of traditional luxury. The crisis of chronology in high fashion defining traditional luxury. The pre-acceleration paradigm traditional luxury, particularly within the Parisian high fashion houses, was historically predicated on an unwavering commitment to three foundational pillars: time, precision, and scarcity. This paradigm justified the exclusivity and often astronomical pricing of garments, which could start at approximately $25,000 for a single couture piece. The value proposition of traditional luxury was rooted in the intricate process of craftsmanship, an endeavor demanding immense skill and specific knowledge, which resulted in a distinctive, exceptionally well-produced item. The discerning customer of this era prioritized garments created to endure, not only for their own lifetime, but potentially for the next generation. This required designers to focus on classic, unique style, intentionally positioning themselves outside the volatile current of fleeting trends. The entire industry rhythm supported this model, operating principally on a biseasonal calendar: spring/summer, SS, and autumn/winter, or, which allowed creative directors and ateliers sufficient time for the meditative process of creative development, meticulous material sourcing, and detailed artisanal execution. This scarcity of output and deliberate pace were intrinsic components of prestige. The crisis of chronology and the ascent of post-luxury. The central argument presented is that the systemic acceleration of the fashion calendar, driven by commercial mandates originating from massive corporate groups, has directly and systematically dismantled the core value proposition of traditional luxury. The time and deep attention necessary for unparalleled craftsmanship and visionary design have been sacrificed at the altar of continuous retail novelty. The resulting erosion of prestige and value is not without a counter-narrative. The only logical successor and antidote to this systemic failure is the emergence of post-luxury conceptual functional art, a term coined by Christopher Banks. This contemporary category redefines the relationship between art, luxury, and utility by designing objects that serve a practical role while simultaneously embodying conceptual meaning, cultural critique, or symbolic narrative. This new paradigm emphasizes permanence, intentionality, and intellectual engagement over transient status appeal. The requirement for perpetual newness, to stabilize retail floors throughout the year, stands in direct contradiction to the definition of exclusivity and timeless investment. Luxury houses today are often compelled to produce collections far more frequently than the two historical seasons, diluting the perceived value of each drop. Traditional luxury relies heavily on the promise that its creations are timeless, enduring both physically and aesthetically. When a major brand, pressured by the accelerated model, releases 6 or even 18 collections annually, the rapid succession of aesthetic themes and product drops fundamentally undermines the promise of longevity, essentially guaranteeing immediate stylistic obsolescence. This erosion of perceived durability shifts the consumer's perception of value from permanence to mere currency, ultimately constituting the systemic self-destruction of the traditional model. This transformation is best described as a direct sequence. The pressure of conglomerate sales mandates led inevitably to calendar proliferation, which resulted in accelerated trend cycling, ultimately causing the semantic destruction of timelessness. The oligopolistic engine, corporate mandates and calendar proliferation, the rise of conglomerate control and financialization. The contemporary structure of high fashion is defined by its oligopolistic nature, where market power is concentrated among colossal groups, primarily LVMH, Moet, Hennessy, Louis Vuitton, and Kering, formerly PPR. These conglomerates manage vast, complementary portfolios encompassing fashion, leather goods, jewelry, and watches, establishing a robust position across all major market segments. The growth of these giants is underpinned by highly strategic acquisitions of historically significant houses, driven by the goal of financial maximization and global vision development. For instance, the acquisition of Christian Dior in 2017 for $13.7 billion by the Arnault family, or Kering's purchase of the Gucci Group, demonstrates the enormous capital leveraged to secure brand heritage and reputation. Such high-value financial maneuvers invariably place extreme pressure on the acquired houses to deliver massive and continuous returns, demanding robust organic growth. The stated corporate strategy of groups like Kering, centering on fully realizing a house's organic growth potential and fostering responsive, proactive teams, implicitly prioritizes commercial agility and financial results above the historically slower pace required by pure artisanship. The strategic function of calendar expansion, moving beyond the 4 seasons. The foundational 4-season calendar, spring, summer, autumn, winter, has been aggressively supplemented by interseasonal or transitional collections, resort/cruise and pre-fall. This proliferation has dramatically increased the required collection output. Originally conceived with niche purposes, resort/cruise collections catered to affluent clients vacationing in warmer climates during the winter, while pre-fall collections bridged the retail gap between summer and autumn. These interseasonal drops are now primarily mechanisms for commerce. They act as essential bridges, ensuring a continuous flow of newness throughout the entire year, maintaining consumer engagement and stimulating year-round spending. The pre-fall and resort collections are critical to the financial stability of modern luxury houses, often generating the bulk of a brand's annual sales. These collections arrive early in the retail cycle. Resort collections appear in stores around November, supporting sales during transition periods and preventing the retail floor from going stale. By maintaining fresh inventory year-round, brands avoid arbitrary cut-off dates, order quantity constraints, and the subsequent markdown cycles often triggered by seasonal lag or unseasonable weather. Commercial velocity as the new metric of luxury value. When pre-collections, fundamentally designed for rapid commercial stability and inventory turnover, generate the majority of a luxury house's revenue, the key performance indicators, KPI, imposed upon the creative director shift. The priority moves away from creating sublime, lasting art toward delivering high-volume, globally adaptable and immediately sellable products. This represents a profound systemic change. The institutional focus is no longer on valuing scarcity and dedicated craft, but rather on achieving high commercial velocity. This hyper-acceleration forces traditional luxury houses to compete on the operational terms defined by fast fashion, speed and efficiency, rather than establishing and upholding their own unique standards of production. Internally, this commercial pressure creates conflicts. As design teams prioritize fleeting trends, merchandising demands speed, and the supply chain struggles to cut costs while maintaining rapid delivery schedules. Furthermore, the collections themselves are commodified as expensive marketing collateral. Resort shows, often staged as elaborate spectacles in exotic locations, function primarily as major global PR events designed to generate essential buzz and viral moments required for conglomerate growth strategy. The collections become means to an end, the generation of media content, rather than purely artistic ends in themselves. This demonstrates that the financialization of luxury, which requires continuous organic growth, has led to calendar proliferation, 6+ collections, transforming collections into crucial PR vehicles, thereby fundamentally reframing the creative director's role as that of a high-end content generator. The creative deficit, quantifying overload and the cost of continuous output, the designer as industrial machine. Analyzing the unsustainable workload, visionary designers working within the current structure consistently express alarm over the industry's pace. Raf Simons, a figure intimately familiar with the demands of a major luxury house, stated plainly that the fashion world doesn't know the word stop. This constant requirement to produce better and more leads to systemic creative exhaustion, a phenomenon that begins to impact even students entering the discipline, leaving them drained of inspiration. This unrelenting pace contributes directly to the crisis of short tenures and high turnover within the industry. While figures like Hedi Slimane commanded salaries exceeding $12 million annually after achieving massive success at St. Laurent, such performance sets an impossibly high bar. A typical 3-year contract is often insufficient time for a designer to realize their potential, especially when commercial success is measured almost instantaneously via social media metrics, though commercial impact traditionally requires several seasons to fully assess. The high-leverage designer, quantifying output and creative overload, the extreme pressure from conglomerates, transforms the creative director into a highly leveraged, short-term asset focused on delivering short-term shareholder value and a viral moment to fuel multi-billion-dollar brand growth. This relentless pursuit of rapid financial success is best understood through the specific pressures and outcomes associated with the industry's highest-profile creative roles. Jonathan Anderson, the 18 Collection Index of Exhaustion. Jonathan Anderson currently embodies the peak of this unsustainable demand, managing an estimated total output of 18 collections annually. His responsibilities include 10 separate collections for Dior, encompassing men's, women's, and the prestigious haute couture lines, in addition to 6 annual collections for his eponymous J.W. Anderson brand and 2 collections for his Uniqlo collaboration. This astonishing pace guarantees that the necessary time for deep, meditative creation, particularly for the highest craft segment, haute couture, is virtually eliminated, forcing this pinnacle of traditional luxury to serve as high-profile marketing collateral rather than genuine artistic investment. John Galliano. The precedent of collapse. The dangers of such an overwhelming schedule are historically clear in the case of Anderson's predecessor at Dior, John Galliano. Galliano was infamously responsible for creating over 30 collections annually across Dior and his namesake line. He later explicitly cited these overwhelming demands as the catalyst for his eventual personal crisis, which led to his professional collapse and dismissal. The expectation that any creative director can operate at this volume without succumbing to the same pressures that tested even the most legendary talents is a profound institutional gamble. Raf Simons. The rejection of relentless pursuit. The exodus of visionaries like Raf Simons validates the systemic unsustainability. Simons' decision to leave Dior in 2015 was an explicit rejection of the relentless pursuit of profit that dominated the house. He sought to return to his namesake menswear line, which produces only 2 collections per year, allowing him to pursue the passions that drive me outside my work and gain complete creative control and a personal life. This move effectively traded the vast resources of a major conglomerate for the luxury of having time. Simons' later dismissal from Calvin Klein, attributed to disappointing sales after only 2 years, further confirmed that even celebrated talent is a disposable asset when they fail to meet immediate, aggressive growth targets. Hedi Slimane. The high-leverage juggernaut. The pressures driving this turnover are exemplified by figures like Hedi Slimane. Having achieved massive commercial success, doubling Lanvin's revenue, Slimane commanded a salary exceeding $12 million annually. His value was so high that LVMH later tapped him for Celine with the explicit corporate goal of building the brand into a €2 to €3 billion a year juggernaut. This demonstrates the conglomerate mindset. The designer is a high-leverage asset whose primary function is to generate necessary viral moments and immediate financial returns, with commercial success measured almost instantaneously via social media metrics. The exodus of visionaries. Elbaz and the critique of unloyalty. Similarly, Alber Elbaz, who successfully doubled Lanvin's revenue, maintained a fierce ideological opposition to the accelerated cycle. He detested the idea of the fleeting it bag and emphasized the importance of humanizing fashion, prioritizing the human being, then the object around them. Elbaz cautioned against the drive to be the designer of the moment, recognizing that the moment ends, a reflection on the ephemerality forced upon creativity by the accelerated trend cycle. His critique underscored the manipulative and unloyal nature of a business that swiftly discards its creative heroes once the expected financial growth slows. The death of traditional luxury. An examination of dilution, erosion of craftsmanship and quality justification. The very definition of traditional luxury craftsmanship involves an intricate process demanding precision and time to meet exclusive customer expectations. The accelerated calendar directly undermines this standard, enforcing design and production processes to prioritize speed over meticulous quality. The luxury house is compelled to cut corners or scale artisanal production far beyond its natural cadence. If garments, especially those nominally considered luxury, are rushed to meet quarterly floor drops, the intrinsic value proposition based on high-end, long-lasting materials and personalized construction is inherently weakened. Consequently, the high price point ceases to be justified by demonstrable artisanship and longevity, becoming instead a function of brand status, aggressive marketing, and the associated content generation. Traditional luxury thus morphs from a product category defined by enduring quality into a volatile marketing mechanism defined by immediate trend currency. The shift from investment to consumption. The modern luxury rhythm inadvertently replicates the consumption model of its nemesis, fast fashion. While haute couture and ready-to-wear luxury sit at the extreme end of the pricing spectrum compared to fast fashion, the institutional need for constant newness necessary to satisfy the retail cycle mimics the high-volume, high-turnover model. Traditional luxury customers invested in items created to last a lifetime. Conversely, customers in the accelerated cycle, whether they realize it or not, are conditioned toward a consumption mindset where garments are not expected to last longer than a couple of seasons maximum. The accelerated system ensures that a $25,000 piece, no matter how exquisite, will be stylistically obsolete or overshadowed by the next seasonal drop within 6 months. This rapid cycle fundamentally erodes the definition of the luxury purchase as a lasting investment. Luxury as an ethical contradiction. The pursuit of endless collections also introduces a profound ethical contradiction. While traditional luxury consumers sought longevity, modern consumers, particularly the younger generation crucial to future growth, demand that companies demonstrate commitment to sustainability, human rights, and supply chain resilience. Conglomerates like Kering explicitly incorporate sustainability strategies, framing them as an investment crucial for attracting top talent and retaining environmentally conscious investors. However, the core business engine, the requirement to deliver 6 to 18 collections annually and prioritize speed, is fundamentally antagonistic to genuine sustainability. Accelerated production necessitates faster resource extraction, creates more physical waste, and perpetuates an inherent cycle of forced consumption and obsolescence, regardless of the initial quality of the materials used. This hypocrisy between corporate sustainability rhetoric and the hyper-accelerated production schedule signals the death of traditional luxury's moral and ethical integrity, leaving the model indefensible in an environmentally conscious era. The prognosis: post-luxury and conceptual functional art defining post-luxury. The new consumer demand. The decline of the traditional luxury model has created space for a successor paradigm, post-luxury. This movement is fundamentally philosophical, marked by a rejection of simplistic status signaling. The ultra-high net worth individual, having achieved financial freedom, finds that overt displays of wealth, such as driving a Ferrari to signal status, become irrelevant. Instead, the post-luxury consumer demands impact, purpose, and values. Their choices are driven by ethical alignment, compelling narrative, and the desire to make an individual statement, rather than acquiescing to corporate-driven trend cycles. They are willing to engage with smaller businesses and unique retailers, chasing intrinsic quality and intellectual depth over market ubiquity. Conceptual functional art, a theoretical framework. The only logical successor to the commercially exhausted traditional model is conceptual functional art. This concept is best framed by the definition coined by Christopher Banks. Post-luxury conceptual functional art is a contemporary category of artistic creation that redefines the relationship between art, luxury, and utility. It refers to objects designed with both function and philosophy at their core, pieces that serve a practical role while simultaneously embodying conceptual meaning, cultural critique, or symbolic narrative. Unlike traditional luxury goods, which rely on rarity, materials, or status appeal, this category emphasizes permanence, intentionality, and intellectual engagement. The post-luxury aspect signals a shift away from consumption-driven models of exclusivity, situating value instead in depth of thought, cultural resonance, and enduring use. This framework re-establishes the garment as a significant, enduring object of cultural value, transcending its purely utilitarian purpose to become a canvas for ideas. Conceptual fashion prioritizes creativity, deep symbolism, and compelling storytelling, blurring the line between wearable design and fine art. The creation of pieces that explore cultural heritage, reflect deep emotions, or provoke thought e.g., designs by Chalayan or Van Herpen, elevates the runway from a platform for commerce to a space for intellectual and emotional dialogue. This fusion ensures the item functions as a walking exhibition, allowing the consumer's wardrobe to reflect personal values and identity. Conceptual functional art successfully integrates the 3 established types of functional art. Decorative, the piece must be aesthetically pleasing. Utilitarian, it must retain a practical purpose such as wearability. Conceptual, crucially, it must challenge traditional ideas about what art and clothing can be. This paradigm provides genuine artistic reflection, restoring the integrity of the design profession and mitigating the drained of inspiration burnout that plagues the current system. By shifting the focus away from the designer as a high-speed content generator who must deliver 18 collections annually, the model re-establishes the designer as a visionary, a sculptor or philosopher using the garment as a critical medium. The new business model, seasonless design. The implementation of conceptual functional art requires a fundamental structural correction, the adoption of seasonless fashion. This model reintegrates time into the creation process, focusing on timeless designs and fabrics intended for genuine longevity. The remainder of this study continues at objectsofaffectioncollection.com. This has been a study from the Objects of Affection collection, a critical art research institution operating under the framework of post-luxury conceptual functional art. Read the full research at objectsofaffectioncollection.com.